So it's that time of week to give you an updated 2018 NBA mock draft. You're going to get one of these a week, whether you like it or not. Sorry, it's just the nature of the beast. You can check out all 30 picks. That's right, 30 picks. I didn't just do the lottery. I did all of round one. It's in the description box down below. Next week will probably be my first 2-round mock draft. Now, keep this in mind. I'm still going through and trying to play hurry up and catch up on these prospects and watching them and starting to formulate opinions on them. I would say for the guys that are in the top 8 to 10 in this draft, I feel like I have pretty strong opinions one way or another on each of them, but I'm still trying to work through the list. So bear with me here a little bit. Again, mind you, the only mock draft that really matters is the last one, and this is primarily for conversational purposes. Now, as you'll notice, I still have Luka Doncic going number 1 to the Suns. His old national coach is now head coach of the Suns. You know, DeAndre Ayton has a lot of upside and appeal. But ultimately, you win with point guards and wing players in today's NBA. You don't win with dominant centers. There just aren't a lot of them, and they just don't translate as well to the modern game. Now, that said, Ayton is athletic enough and skilled enough where he could be able to survive to a certain degree, but you're talking about taking somebody number 1 overall. It feels like Luka Doncic is the better fit for the modern NBA game. Now, what will be interesting is if the Phoenix Suns say, hey, we're going to take the kid that played at Arizona, Ayton, we're going to take a center. We're not going to try and go give Capella max money in free agency. It'll be interesting to see if Luka Doncic goes to the Kings at 2 or the Hawks at 3, and if he does, if he ends up forcing a trade, or he ends up deciding to stay over in the EuroLeague, because there's been some talk and rumors about that, and the way he's talked about the draft makes you think that it could be a possibility. Now, what does Sacramento do? Now, obviously, if Ayton's there, they've got to take Ayton, and they do. You take Ayton and you figure it out. You've already got De'Aaron Fox. You got to take Ayton at that point in time, because he would be best player available on the board. That I won't knock him for. But if Doncic is there, do you take somebody like Marvin Bagley? Do you take Jaren Jackson? Do you take Bamba and pass on a guy like Luka Doncic? Same thing with the Hawks. Do you take the gamble? Do you take the risk that Doncic will come to play for you? Do you take the risk or the gamble that he might not want to? He might stay over in the EuroLeague and or might demand a trade. Again, it'll be interesting to see if Doncic doesn't go number 1. Is there a chance he falls to Memphis at number 4, potentially even Dallas at number 5? Now, in terms of my top 5, I believe it's pretty much the same as the last one, with Doncic 1, Ayton 2 to the Kings, Bagley 3 to the Hawks, Jaren Jackson Jr. going 4 to the Grizzlies, and Bamba going 5 to the Mavericks. I believe that's the same top 5 I had in the last mock draft. Could be mistaken. But feels like right now that would be picks 1 through 5, but as always, subject to change. One change is I have Michael Porter Jr. going number 6 to Orlando, Wendell Carter instead going number 7 to the Bulls. Still have Trae Young going 8 to the Cavaliers. I've got Collin Sexton down at number 9 to the Knicks. And before you say, well, what about Ntilikina? What the fuck about him? Just saying. But as I go through this draft, it's clearly obvious to me that it's top-heavy in terms of the big men, but the real strength of this draft are the point guards, and specifically the wings, the 2s and the 3s. They're the ones that are dominant in this draft. They are the ones that will determine how good or great this draft class may or may not be. If you're looking for help when it comes to big men, you're looking very, very early, or you're gambling on guys later, and that's the reality of it. It feels like there's a lot more safe space with the 1s, the 2s, and the 3s, which could potentially benefit guys like Mitchell Robinson and Brandon McCoy, or maybe an Omari Spellman, because the strength of the class this year is not the power forwards, it's not the centers. Some of those guys could end up seeing their draft stock elevate as a result. We've seen that happen from time to time. And when it comes to the NBA, you always have a couple of screwy teams in the lottery that do really screwy things, and I'm sure that will happen again this year. There's a couple of general questions that I have for you guys. If you're the Suns, do you take Luka Doncic or DeAndre Ayton? Next question. If Doncic is there at 2 for the Kings or the Hawks at 3, do you gamble and take him even with the risk being he might stay over in the EuroLeague? Next question I have for you is, after watching them, what is so fundamentally different about Marvin Bagley and Wendell Carter, where Bagley seems to be so much higher rated than Carter? I'm just personally not seeing it. Sorry, I don't. Mo Bamba, he's got length. You hear some Rudy Gobert comparisons. But is he athletic enough to defend in the modern NBA to the point where you worry about, is he just primarily going to clog the lane, and in key moments and stretches of the game, you're going to have to take him out for both offensive and, frankly, defensive purposes? Would you gamble on Michael Porter Jr., a guy that was anticipated to be a top 3 pick in this draft, knowing he's incredibly talented as a wing, but he had that back injury that forced him to miss the majority of his one college season? Lots of questions here. Out of the point guards, would you rather have Trae Young? Would you rather have Collin Sexton? I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say. Again, this is my newest updated NBA mock draft. There will be another one, 2-round edition, come next week, so stay tuned.